Persuasion, this is just my own take on it, is when you're persuading somebody who wants to be persuaded, or at least is no worse off for it. Manipulation would be a different situation, and again, this is just my version of it. Manipulation would be where the person who's doing it has something to gain, and the person who's having it done to them has something to lose. So if it's a win-lose situation, that's manipulation. I often tell you that I think I'm watching the news, just like a spectator, and then all of a sudden the news is about me, and I say, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be watching the news. Why is the news about me? And that happened again yesterday. So the Woodward book, part of the promotion of it is, I guess he's dropping some of the audio tapes of the interviews, and they're getting turned into transcripts and articles. And one of them was his interview, Woodward's interview with Jared Kushner. And Jared Kushner told him that to understand President Trump, there were 4 books that Woodward should read that really give you the complex picture of who President Trump is. Now, one of those books was the Alice in Wonderland, and specifically the Cheshire Cat. And I had to remind myself, what's the Cheshire Cat's deal? I know he's got a big smile and he disappears, but I don't remember much more. And so I read a description of him, and the Cheshire Cat is described as mischievous, smiley and mischievous. And I thought, okay, yeah, that's actually, if you understand that the Cheshire Cat is mischievous, you can say, okay, that is definitely President Trump, right? You know he likes a little mischief. It's not an accident that he creates mischief nonstop. It's not like he can't stop doing it. Or maybe he can't. But, that definitely is a pretty good description of him. But that's not the whole person, right? And that would be Jared's point, that you'd have to read 4 different books to look in 4 different windows to understand what the interior of the house looks like. So that's one, Cheshire Cat, Alice in Wonderland. But one of the other books was my book, Win Bigly. Now, Win Bigly, the primary theme of it is that the president is a master persuader and uses the tools of persuasion to great effect. How did Woodward categorize my book? Now, remember the Murray-Gell-Mann effect, the amnesia effect? I talked about it too much. The idea that there was this physicist who noted that when he saw a story in the press about his specialty, he could tell it was wrong, because it's his specialty. But the moment he would read a story about something else, like the Palestinian situation or anything else, he would uncritically read it as if it's probably right, even though when he reads articles that he knows the content or he knows the field, he knows they're wrong, and they're universally wrong. Likewise, if you didn't know any better and you're listening, you're looking at Woodward describe these books, he described my book as characterizing the president as manipulative. That's a word I never used, and in fact, I went to pains to make sure I didn't do that. So the one thing I can fact check, the only thing I can personally check, and I can know with complete certainty is wrong, coincidentally, the only area that I'm an expert in, which is the book I wrote, I know that he characterized it wrong. I mean, as wrong as you could characterize it. Now, do I now say, well, the one thing I could fact check personally was wrong, but I'll bet all that other stuff was good? I used to think stuff like that. Not anymore. Now I know that the odds of me catching that one little thing that was the wrong, a wrong characterization, it's probably all wrong characterizations. There's no reason to believe any of it's right. So here's my definition of manipulation versus persuasion. Now this is sort of a personal take on it, but I think it works. Persuasion this is just my own take on it, is when you're persuading somebody who wants to be persuaded, or at least is no worse off for it. For example, if you're a car salesperson and the customer comes in, the customer knows that the car salesperson is persuading them. They know that. But it's also very transparent. Every part of the technique is pretty well known to everybody. But it doesn't feel like manipulation exactly. It feels like persuasion. It feels like sales. It's a little icky, but you want the car. And on some level, you kind of want to get talked into it, right? I mean, when you go to buy a car, you kind of want to be talked into it. Because in many cases, you've decided just for emotional reasons, and now you need somebody to tell you you were smart. So that would be persuasion, where you're not worse off, unless the salesperson is just a criminal. They're just being persuasive. They're not manipulating you, per se. But manipulation would be a different situation. And again, this is just my version of it. Manipulation would be where the person who's doing it has something to gain, and the person who's having it done to them has something to lose. So if it's a win-lose situation, that's manipulation. The president, again, in my view, doesn't do that one. He doesn't do manipulation in the context of the presidency and running for the presidency. What he does is persuasion. So if he tries to persuade you, for example, that there should be a wall on the southern border, he's not doing it to screw you, right? You could disagree whether that's a good idea or a bad idea. But I think you'd all agree that he's not doing it to screw you. If you're an American citizen, he's doing it to help you. So if he persuades you to get a wall, to fund a wall, are you worse off? You could be worse off in the sense that maybe you don't like that policy. But it's not because there was bad intent. It's only manipulation if you have some evil intention. If you have a good intention, but it requires you to persuade people to get it done, you could be right or you could be wrong, but it's still good intention. And that's persuasion. So I would say Woodward's characterization of my book as calling the president manipulative is just flat out wrong. I don't write it that way at all.